Hello, thank you for choosing Rewind Rentals. This is going to be a modded PSP guide. What you're going to need is your PSP with a memory card adapter to a micro SD card. To access your memory card, you can get your micro SD card and insert into a micro SD card to USB adapter. A better alternative is to have your memory card inside your PSP and use a USB to USB mini A. It should look like this. There will be a modded PSP guide in this post. I will also like to note that this PSP has a custom firmware. If you do not have a custom firmware, this will not work. To start, let's turn on the PSP. Next, let's plug in the PSP to the USB mini A. The cord is very short, so it's going to have to sit right here. Once you have plugged in your PSP, your files should automatically open. If not, open your files and scroll down to where your PSP is located. In my case, it's USB drive J. Keep this folder open as we are going to be going back and forth with it. I would also like to note that if you are getting a PSP modded at Rewind Rentals, you should not have to download any programs as they should already be there for you. To start off, you will need the program 7-Zip. 7-Zip is going to uncompress your games and or files. Once you have 7-Zip, you will have your game and you will have your program of choice. I will show you where all the programs are. They're going to be in PSP, game, and I have conveniently labeled them for whenever I am on a computer and I need to go and put a game into the ROMs folder. When downloading a game, you might get a compressed zip folder, .7z or .rar. Once you have your game, you're going to right click, 7-Zip, and extract here. As you can see, right here, you're going to have your game. Now that you know how to use 7-Zip, we're going to start off with installing a PSP game. To start off, going to your PSP memory card files, and you're going to create a folder named ISO. To create a folder, right-click, New, Folder. Here in ISO, you're going to put your ISO games here. Where you get your PSP game is completely up to you, but I recommend Vim's Lair, that is VIMMLAIR. Here I have my PSP game. I have now uncompressed it and is now an ISO file. You're going to click and drag into the ISO folder, and you're going to wait for it to transfer. Once your game has transferred, it will now appear in your ISO folder, and that's all you need to do for PSP. To play your PSP game, unattach the USB cable from your PSP. Your PSP may have fallen asleep, so press a button to wake it up. Then press circle to back out into the main menu. It's going to take some time to load up. And scroll over to game and scroll down to memory stick and then press X. As you can see here, there is your PSP games. To play PlayStation 1 games, connect your PSP to USB. You're going to need the PSX to PSP. That is PSX, the number 2, and PSP. Once you have downloaded the PSX to PSP, you're going to find PSP underscore version and then current version. You're going to open it up and you're going to go to PSX to PSP.exe. Once you have clicked the PSX to PSP.exe file, you're going to click Convert menu, click on the three dots on the upper right hand corner where it says ISO/PBP. I have already created a PS1 folder, and you're going to click your game, and it's going to be a bin file. When you download your PS1 game, it should be a bin, and there should be another one called Q. We're only going to be focusing on bin. Click open. Click on the three dots where it says output PBP folder. That's going to be where your game is stored. Then find a file to where you want to store it. I would not extract it to the PSP itself because it may not work. So I found one for me. I named it PS1. Click OK. Here you can change your game title, your save title, game ID, and save ID. You will not need to change your game ID and save ID. After that, click Customize PBP. Here you can change your icon image, background image, information image, background music, icon animation, boot/warning image. For now, I am only going to focus on the icon image. Here I have Castlevania Symphony of the Night, and I have the Castlevania Symphony of the Night cover. Click OK. Click that. Then go to Options, and this is optional, but I usually keep mine at compression level 9. That is going to compress the game to be a smaller file size. You do not have to do this, and sometimes level 9 may not work for you. It may mess your game up, so you can scroll all the way down to compression level 0. For now, I'm going to keep mine at 9. Click Save. After you've done that, click Convert. It is now going to compress and extract your file. Once it is completed, it will say Done, Final Compression, and it compressed it 30%. So click OK, and then you can click X. Now let's go to our PlayStation 1 game file. So here we have PlayStation 1 game, and it was originally 569,660 kilobytes. But as we go into our game file, this is the name of our game file. It's going to say eboot.pbp, and it compressed it to 39,564 kilobytes. So it compressed it pretty good. So we're going to go back, and now on our PSP memory card, you're going to go to PSP game, and as you can see, this customer already has some game files that I had put in here. So we're going to just put it onto the root of the game file. Once your PS1 game has transferred over, you will see it right here. And now to play your game. To play your game, unplug the USB, turn on the PSP, press back to go to the main menu. Now scroll over to Game, Memory Stick, press X to open, and here you will see Castlevania Symphony of the Night. Like I said before, I am only worried about the icon animation, or the icon profile, but you can change your background image, you can add music, animations, anything you want. And right here I have Crash Bandicoot and Silent Hill. Now for Nintendo 64 games. Please keep in mind that N64 games are not emulated to 100%, and they may crash, they may be laggy, and audio may be buggy. Now what you're going to do is you're going to download the Daedalus X 64. I may have said that wrong, but it's DAEDALUSX 64. Once you have that downloaded, you're going to open it up and you're going to see ROMs. This is where you're going to put your ROMs. For me, I have Super Mario 64 and it should be the Z64 file. What you're going to do is you're going to open ROMs and you're going to drag and drop onto the ROMs folder. Simple as that. Once you have your program, the Daedalus X64, you're going to drag and drop onto your game file where it says PSP game, and you're going to drag and drop here. I have conveniently labeled all these programs for different consoles as their console. So right here for Nintendo, Nintendo 64, Super Nintendo, Atari 2600, and this one was already named Sega Mega Drive, so I left it alone. And so now with that, you have your program and your ROMs. Now to access your games. Unplug your PSP, press back, scroll over to game, memory stick, press X to open, scroll all the way down till you see the Daedalus 64 program. It should look like the N64 logo, but instead of the letter N, it's the letter D. Press X to open. Once you have your games, they will show up at the top right corner of your PSP, and they should display their name. As of right now, I do not know how to put the game image onto the preview window. If you are able to, please feel free to share. So once you have your game, we have Super Mario 64 right here. Press X to open. For you, you might have to change some settings to get the best out of your game. It should automatically be off for audio. It should be disabled. But you can turn it on, but I recommend leaving it off because you will have better frame rates, and when you have your audio on, it's very glitchy and does not sound good. So save and return, and start emulation by pressing X. As you can see right here, we have Mario. Press start. And now you can use your analog stick to move the hand around and start a new file. Now to install your Super Nintendo games. Plug in your PSP, and you will need a program called S9XTYLME_mod. Once you have downloaded that, open the folder. Once you open up your folder, you might not see ROMs. To do that, right click, new, folder, type in ROMs, and this is where you will store your games. For Super Nintendo games, it will be SMC format or SFC format. They are the same thing. So click on that, drag and drop. Once you have that dropped, go back and you'll get your S9XTYLME_mod, and you will drag and drop onto the game folder. And now to play your Super Nintendo games, unplug the USB, go back to the main menu, scroll over to Game, Memory Stick, press X to open, scroll all the way down till you see SNES 9XTYL. Press X to open. Once you have opened up the Super Nintendo app, you're going to find your game files. Click on whatever game you want and press X. Now let's start with Sega Mega Drive or Sega Genesis. It's going to be the same program with Mega Drive and Genesis allowed. So the program you will need is going to be called Pico Drive. That's PICODRIVE. Once you download it, you would either have the Pico Drive folder, or in my case, it was already named Sega Mega Drive PSP. Once you have that, double click it, locate your ROMs folder, open it, and find your game file is going to be GEN file for Genesis. Drag and drop. Go back, and your game file or your program folder, you're going to drag and drop onto the game folder. Now to play your Genesis games. Unplug the USB. Go back to the main menu. Scroll over to Game Memory Stick. Press X to open. Scroll down till you see Pico Drive for PSP. Click Open. Once you see this menu, you will see Load New ROM/ISO, and you have the option to change your settings. So click click O to open it. Scroll down till you find /ROMs, click O to open, and scroll down to your game. Click O to open. And now to play Nintendo games. Plug in your PSP. The program you will need is called Nestor_AOEX_R3. Once you have that downloaded, open it. Locate your ROMs folder, and this is where you're going to put your ROMs. Your file name should be NES file. Click, drag it, and drop. In this case, my game name is Mike Tyson's Punch Out, and then it has Japan, US, English, revision 1. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to backspace until I just have the name of the game. That's just so whenever you go into your game file on your PSP, it'll just have the name instead of any extra stuff. So once you have that, go back, find your Nestor file, and you're going to drag and drop onto the game file. Once you have that, you can now play your NES games. So what you're going to do is you're going to unplug, go back to the main menu, scroll over to Game Memory Stick. Scroll all the way down till you find Nestor J. Click X to open. Once you're here, it should be blank, so press O twice. Now scroll down to where it says Nestor_AOEX_R3 / press O to open. Scroll all the way down till it says ROMs / press O to open, and now you have all your games. And then press O to play your game. last but not least, my favorite one, Atari 2600. So what we're going to do, plug it in. And the program that you will need is PSP 2600. Once you have that downloaded, open it up. And you're going to have your ROMs right here. Open that up. And once you have your game, it should be a 26 file. You're going to click, drag and drop. And that's it. And then once you have your PSP to 2600 folder, you're going to drag and drop onto the games folder. After that, now it's time to play them. To access your games, your Atari 2600 games, unplug, click back to go to the main menu, scroll over to game memory stick, scroll all the way down till you find Atari 2600. Click X to open. Here you'll be greeted with a menu, and it should already be on the load ROM option. Press X or O, and then scroll down to your game. Click X or O, and then it should automatically load up. That's it for this tutorial. I hope you found it really helpful. Like I said, I will leave a text guide in this post. Please check out Rewind Rentals. Give me a call at 601-549-1800 or give me a text. And I can also receive emails at rewindrentals2001@gmail.com. At Rewind Rentals, I can repair your console, like this PSP. Just need a new screen. Disk drive is broken, so I gave the customer the option to get it repaired, or I can modify it for him. I can also do controller repairs and modifications like the Game Boy and have a backlit screen.